Hello, Toronto real estate agents. It is currently a Tuesday. Last night we had the NBA draft lottery, and for all Toronto Raptors fans, we're hoping to get the number one pick. Unfortunately, we get the 9th pick, but let's hope that turns into something special. But let's dig into real estate because that's what we're really here for. We actually have a special guest today, the number one agent in our office in Keller Williams Portfolio Luxury. And when you know it, she is an incredibly successful luxury agent herself, Irene Kaushansky. Irene, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific, Oliver. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here.
So the word luxury is thrown around quite a lot. And I think the meaning of it has really been diluted quite a bit to where agents, they'll put top producer in their bio, they'll put luxury real estate agent, and it almost kind of sounds like satisfaction guaranteed in that it's a big statement that means absolutely nothing. So let's get into what luxury actually means. How do you define luxury in this Toronto market?
I think that's a great question. Certainly, price point is part of it, but it is not the only part. And some agents do make the mistake of just relegating luxury to a specific price point. For us, it's a service standard. It's a different set of expectations from luxury clients, and it's a way of treating people that does need to be elevated from traditional real estate.
So if you're dealing with, I don't know, let's say a $600,000 property somewhere in the GTA, which is obviously not a lot of money in this area, would you still consider that a luxury real estate transaction so long as you're providing that quality of service?
I would say the level of service that we provide has to be at an elevated level no matter what the price point is. You always want to make people feel special regardless of the size of their transaction. Once you start going up market, the level of education and experience and expertise of the client is elevated. It's heightened. Their expectations are much more stringent, and you just have to be even more on your game than you would otherwise be with different price points. But as far as the importance of the client, everybody's important. It doesn't matter the size of their transaction.
So as you go up from your experience in terms of the price points of the client, is there a correlation between the ways that they think? I know you said obviously they're more sophisticated buyers. They kind of have a greater knowledge of the market at large. Do those clients think differently as you kind of go up into the higher price points?
Yeah, absolutely. They have a higher level of experience and worldliness in general. And because their expectations are increased with all luxury brands, not just real estate. So when you're selling an upper end property, you're also dealing with people who are experiencing the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons and the Daimler Dux and the Tiffany's, and everything in that sort of upper tier is where their expectations lie, regardless of the brand or the industry.
Okay, so let's now we've kind of got that established. Let's transition into the work that you've done to get into the space that you're in, where you are one of the most successful agents in the entire Toronto market. How do you build trust with these high net worth individuals and these high net worth clients?
Competence and confidence. You have to have the level of education and knowledge that will create the competence that will then lead to your level of confidence, where you can prove to the clients that you know as much as or more than they do. They are coming to you for advice. They trust you. They have, the group of trusted advisors around them in all of their industries. And if, we are fortunate to be in the real estate space for them, we need to have that level of expertise and be able to advise people what their best decisions would be. They know a lot, but they're coming to us for that specialized knowledge.
I like how you framed that. You said very deliberately, competence first and then confidence. I want to tell you something I heard from a podcast I was listening to, The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And he was kind of discussing the way that people talk about confidence and the relationship that they have with that word. And the way that he framed it was really cool. He was talking about how people discuss confidence as if it's something that you can do. You can have confidence. That's something you can work on. But he described it as something different. Confidence is like happiness or sadness or anger. You don't think, I want to be angry right now, or I want to be sad right now. Something happens and it makes you sad or happy or angry, and it's like an emotion. Yeah. So again, in the episode, he said, if I hit you, he said to his guest, if I hit you, I wouldn't have to tell you now, feel angry. You would just feel angry. And I think confidence is a little bit the same. You build up your competence, you do enough reps that you know that you're competent, and you know that no matter what happens, you're good. And then through that, confidence will just come. How true do you think that is?
I think that's 110%. I'm going to wind us back a little bit to I'm going to say around 2010, when I first joined the luxury division of Keller Williams. That's when it was a division as opposed to a community. And one of the requirements was to take the luxury training from the Luxury Home Marketing Institute with Lori Moore. And the course really focused, like this was the core of it, to make sure that you have the competence that will breed the confidence. And that always stuck with me. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, if I know my stuff and I understand how to present knowledge and facts and present myself, I will just naturally be confident. So it's critical.
So you touched on a little bit about the systems that you kind of have insulating you in Keller Williams' portfolio and the luxury community. Now, for anybody listening to this that doesn't know, Irene is the Keller Williams Luxury Ambassador to Canada. But talk a little bit about the role that the brokerage and the luxury community has played in your success.
Well, the luxury community has been huge. It was one of the main reasons that drew us to Keller Williams in 2008. At that point, it was still in very early stages. It was a very small community. It's grown since then to over 14,000 people, 14,000 earned-in agents through Keller Williams. And our portfolio market center was the first in Canada to open with a luxury designation. At the time, it was a membership, and we wanted to make sure that at our market center, and for those not in Keller Williams, market center is just a word for office. That's what we call our office, so that it is shown as the center of the market. The reason we chose to do that was to provide agents in the upper tier of the market in Toronto with an alternative, with an option that other Keller Williams market centers just didn't have. So we started with that. We've been breeding it. We've been growing it. Now with my luxury ambassador position, my job is to just increase awareness of Keller Williams Luxury with consumers and with other realtors. So that's part of my challenge, part of my charge.
And what are some ways that you do that?
We highlight our training. There is monthly training through the luxury community that is absolutely stellar. It started this year, and I would highly encourage all agents in the luxury sphere and those who are looking to dig into luxury and to break into luxury. That is the first Wednesday of every month. And I'm sure, Oliver, you can provide your listeners with the details for that. But certainly creating a community, creating an environment where there are more than just a few of us. There's growth and success in numbers. And the more of the luxury agents through Keller Williams get together, and the more luxury signs we have all across Toronto and Ontario and of course Canada, the greater the perception and the greater the awareness of Keller Williams Luxury will be.
So you mentioned before that Keller Williams portfolio was the first designated luxury market center in Canada. At the time of this recording, we're actually the only one. So for agents that are looking to get into the luxury space, this is it. This is where it's at.
I thought of that afterwards.
That's all right. Leave it to me to
yeah, that's great, Oliver. Thank you.
Williams portfolio, but let's actually talk about why that's beneficial here for a second, right? So there's obviously ebbs and flows in the real estate market at large, and I feel like we're always saying that whether the market's good, quote unquote, or bad, quote unquote, we're always talking about those ebbs and flows. But how has focusing on the luxury market insulated your business from those typical ups and downs?
Well, I would actually say that focus is not, or perhaps luxury is not the focus of our business. Luxury is a component of our business. If we only sold luxury homes and nothing else at all, I believe that we would not be as productive as we are as a team. We, as a team, run typically anywhere from 50 to 60 units on any given year, somewhere between 65 and 75 million. So our average price really is around 1.3. Now we have the $3 and $4 million properties, but we also have the $800,000 condos and the $1.3 million starter homes. So while it is a component, I would not say it's the focus. It helps us elevate the rest of our standards. It helps our team provide a service level to our clients, like we talked about initially, regardless of price point, that's going to make everyone happy. But I would absolutely say it is a component, not a focus.
You spoke earlier about the expectations that luxury, quote unquote, luxury clients will have, clients at the higher price points, because they're accustomed. Again, they shop at Tiffany. That's where they obviously frequent. When it comes to the service that you're providing that allows you to attract those high net worth individuals as your clients, what are some things that you do offer as your service that encourages and attracts these high net worth individuals?
Anticipation. We call it anticipatory service. So providing a system that they don't have to think about. So we take care of absolutely every single detail, whether it's a buyer or a seller. Obviously, for our listings, there's a lot more that we do. It's a lot more involved than it is for a buyer, but it's also making sure that we anticipate what they might want or need before they do. It's the Four Seasons mantra, I guess. It's figuring out what your clients want before they actually do themselves and getting it for them. That's critical, absolutely critical.
First off, I love that. How much of those things that you're providing are happening consistently to the point they've got a system around it, and how much of these are a la carte or on a case-by-case basis?
I would say the majority of them are in a system, and we have a checklist. When it comes to listing, we have a checklist so that we have a standard system and a process for everyone, so that we know that client can count on it, and everybody that they introduce us to can count on the same experience. But once in a while, you have little things that you figure out might be really, really wonderful to the clients. They have a specific flower or a specific event or something else that we find out is really important to them, that you sort of throw in just as a personal touch, right? That's really critical. As much as we want to be systematized, we can't be so systematized that we don't allow for some kind of variety that's personalized to the client specifically.
Right. That's what makes it human, right?
Human and important, right? What are you going to do to make me feel important?
Right. Would you be willing to share that checklist that you spoke about with the listeners of this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. So we're going to put that in the description below here. In terms of your high net worth individuals, I know we kind of define luxury as the quality of the service, but where do most of these high net worth individuals come from? Are they referrals, networking, online, door knocking, something else entirely?
I would say certainly not online. We do very, very little true internet business. For us, it's networking, past client and sphere, and referrals. I do a lot of door knocking. As you know, door knock is one of our pillars. I'm not afraid to door knock very high-end homes. You can get past the gate and you actually get the owner there as opposed to one of the staff. Most people in those homes are self-made. They have achieved their success because of their own business, and they appreciate hustle. And because I've been at this for a while, and because I've developed that level of competence and confidence, I can walk up to any door. I can talk my way into just about anything. Comes with practice.
That's a brilliant insight there, as I think people kind of build this beast in their head of like, no, that's not for me. Those are for like the real agents or the really successful. I'm just me. And I think that fearlessness that you're talking about, again, if you're talking about high net worth individuals, like you said, very often they've built their success and they would really appreciate to see that hustle. And as opposed to, from experience maybe, individuals that have not grinded and hustled as much, or maybe they have just in other ways, not to build such wealth, those folks don't appreciate the hustle as much as the high net worth individuals. So not only is there less resistance, but there's less reward at the end of it. So all that said, I know you and I are both massive fans of Phil M. Jones, who, by the way, is coming on the show in June.
Yay!
How do those conversations look when you are knocking on these doors?
I door knock with a purpose. We'll never walk up to a door and say, "Hi, do you want to sell your house?" Because I imagine the door would just be shut very quickly. So when we're fortunate enough to have a listing in the area, or especially a sale, obviously that's even better. That opens up the conversation. When there's a focus, it opens up the conversation much faster and much easier because it's authentic. If we have buyers looking for specific properties in an area, that's also a reason to be there. So having some kind, I shouldn't say some kind, having a specific intentional purpose gives me that much more confidence in what I'm doing there.
I find that I speak with a lot of agents that want to reach out to people, but they think that reaching out to someone just means, hi, just calling to see how you're doing, just checking in. And it's a train wreck waiting to happen. I like to call this obeying the laws of gravity. So the laws of gravity are that if I drop my pencil, it will fall down. laws of gravity when it comes to conversation are that if you just walk up to a stranger and say hi without any other purpose, they're not engaged in that conversation. They're only thinking, what is it? Like, what do you want? So I love how you were talking about knocking on the door with a purpose. It really does change things. It gives you the confidence, and it also lowers their guard because there's transparency. They know exactly what you're knocking for. So how many conversations end up in a door being slammed in your face or you being yelled at versus successful conversations, whether or not they're actually looking to buy or sell, but positive conversations?
I would say the number of people that slam doors is very low, very, very low. I come to the door, I'm dressed nice, I smile, I'm polite, I get right to the point. When I have other agents shadow me, I teach them to get right to the point. You don't ask somebody how they're doing. You don't ask them how their day is. Hi, I'm Irene. We've just listed your neighbor's house a couple of doors over. I'm here to find out if you know anybody who's looking for another property in the area or for a property in the area who might be interested. We've just sold a house. We sold it very quickly. We have more buyers that are interested in the neighborhood. Is there anything I can do to convince you to move? Right? And that usually gets them laughing. It breaks the ice. Yeah, just get right to the point. Less is more. Don't say blah, blah, blah when blah will do.
Yes, that's true. There's people always talk about the disc profile, particularly in Keller Williams. And I think there's a misinterpretation of what the D stands for. So D is obviously dominant personality, but people think that D is like, if you're an asshole, that means you're a D. And that's not the case. You could be a high D.
Not at all.
Very friendly, but like, let's go. I've got things to do. Exactly, Irene. You as well, exactly this. So when I do actually talk about you with agents and I'm saying like, this is the person that you should shadow, I say she's sweet, but she's a beast. Like she'll get it done and she'll push it over the line, but she's a lovely person. And I think that oftentimes those two things are inflated, which is conflated rather, which is I think an incredibly massive disservice that agents are doing to themselves because they look at successful people and they go, they're high Ds. They're not going to want to spend any time with me. Like, no, you're confusing them with assholes. That's not a D.
Very different. Yeah, that's a good distinction there, Oliver.
So let's talk about the turning point in your career. Was there a turning point where things started to really take off for you? And if there was, what changed?
Turning point. I don't know if I can think of that quickly enough.
It's all right, take time.
I'll probably think about that. I'll think of that when I go to bed tonight.
Okay, then you text
I
me.
can't, yeah, I'll text you. Yeah, no, I can't off the top of my head remember a switch like, hey, this was the day, or this was the week, or this was the month, or this was the event, or this was the relationship, because it's sort of evolving and there's so much of everything. You never know, or at least for me, I kind of never knew where things started to pick up. Certainly once we were in Keller Williams and had the luxury logo behind us and had the network, the network, I think that's something very, very important to mention, Oliver, is the network of luxury professionals through Keller Williams Realty, because who you surround yourself with matters. And the more I found myself in that environment with other realtors working much higher end properties than I was. At the time, I think $1 million was a lot of money in Toronto at the time. Right? Like that was true luxury. And you started getting into the 2 and 3 millions. That was just, that was massive. So surrounding myself in an environment with tens of thousands of agents in that sphere really made a difference for sure.
I know your business a little bit better, I think, than most people would, because obviously I'm the team leader of the office around here. So I know that's something that you're really, really good at, besides for following up and maintaining connections with your clients and being authentic. But your pipeline is always full of opportunities, full of people to interact with and engage with. And I find that a lot of the time agents find success and then they get busy in their success and then the pipeline empties. And then it's kind of literally just this wave of success, pipeline empty, and then it's tough. So then they fill it up again and it's back and forth, same old story. And that really is the hamster wheel that agents find themselves on and why they can never really get ahead. That's not the case with you. How do you keep your pipeline full no matter how much business is going on?
Relentless follow-up. I protect my follow-up time and I do it 4 times a week religiously unless I'm on vacation, and nothing has me faltering with that. Because the fortune's in the follow-up. The number of times that I met somebody who said they wanted to buy or sell right now is like, I see that as just a gift from heaven. It is relentless follow-up and making sure that the follow-up is beneficial, not beneficial, relevant. That's a really good word, because it's I'm just following up, I'm just checking in. None of that. We know even before Phil Jones started to steer us away from that. There should be like just much like coming to the door And having a reason, you need to have a reason to follow up with somebody. The last time we spoke, you said X. Is that still the case? I saw this house and thought of you. I drove by your street and thought of you. Maybe I didn't drive by the street, but it's a reason to pick up the phone and call. How are you doing? Has anything changed? What's happened in your world? Have it be relevant enough so that people want to talk to you. I mean, everybody's so busy. Everybody's got so much coming at them all the time. You need to do something that's going to make you stand out and have them pick up your phone or respond to your text.
So this podcast recording started at 12:45 p.m. I know the answer to this question, but just so everybody listening to this understands, why couldn't we start the podcast, say, at 10:30 this morning?
Because I was lead generating.
Because you were lead generating. So there you go. One of the top agents in Toronto, religiously protecting her time to make sure that the pipeline always stays full. So if you're an agent doing, let's say, 8 transactions a year, and that means that you don't have time to do prospecting or follow-up because you're too busy with clients, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's really important to throw out there. I'm sorry if I offended anybody. When it comes to goal setting and growing your business, do you have an approach to that? And do you think differently now than you did earlier on in your career as it pertains to personal development?
Well, that's a lot. That's a big question. I was always into personal development. I shouldn't say always. As soon as I got into real estate and I was thrown into an environment with more personal development, I latched onto it very, very quickly because I could see that people that knew more than I did were telling me what I needed to do to be successful. I think my early superpower, and it is still my superpower, but it was something I picked up very early, was to listen to the people that knew more than me and do what they said. It's that doing part, right? Yeah. James Shaw, who we're very familiar with, he says you have to go from knowing to doing. Go from inspiration to perspiration. You have to take that information that you're getting and do something with it that will move you forward. And it was that action piece after knowledge that I picked up very early, and I'm very grateful that I stuck with it.
There's a bold law: be, do, have. What does that mean to you?
Be who you truly want to be so that you can do what you need to do to get there so that you could have what you want when you want it.
Can you elaborate on be the person that you want to be?
I guess it depends on what you truly want to be for yourself. You know, for me is being a business person and having the type of business that will help my family, create a legacy, help others. My focus for last year, this year, and the year beyond is going to be leading leaders. So what can I do to find other people to join our world so that we can make their world bigger as ours gets bigger as well?
If you're speaking with an agent that wants to break into the luxury space, and I know the way that you define luxury, it's a little bit hard to explain this question. I would say that wants to start attracting higher net worth clients, what's the first thing that agent should do?
Find a mentor. Find a mentor that will help them create a plan that's going to be personalized for them. That way, you're going to shortcut your learning curve massively rather than trying to figure it all out yourself.
So I know that there is also a misconception that successful realtors or successful business people have better things to do with their time. Why would they want to spend their time sharing knowledge and insights with agents that are not as successful as them? I do say it's a misconception. Can you please talk to that?
I can talk to that for me. I can't talk to it for everybody. Certainly, it really depends on the person. And if somebody has a growth and giving mentality that's similar to mine and ours. I mean, I took a lot of lessons from my owner husband who has this in spades, right? If you're helping those around you and if you're building their worlds massively, that will build your own world. I don't know, I can't say that for absolutely everybody, but you won't know if you are out there looking for a mentor, you won't know what that person is thinking or how they will react to your request until you ask them. You just have to be afraid. You just have to not be afraid to ask.
Are there any books or courses that you'd recommend to an agent that really wants to take things to a whole other level?
Well, I would say the first thing is to make sure that you're in Keller Williams Luxury for sure. And if you're already in Keller Williams and you haven't earned in luxury, start with the training that Brady Sandall, the director of growth for Keller Williams Luxury, holds every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. We started talking about this at the beginning of the podcast. Books, oh my goodness. I don't know if you can learn luxury from a book. I think you need the person-to-person contact. You need to have the feel, the language. The language is very important. You know, we just talked about this in one of our sessions a little while ago. That's not a book thing. That is an immersion. You need to be immersed in that and be part of a community that will help you nurture that.
Just to close out, can you just briefly tell us, because I am going to share the information with the trainings that you're talking about on a Wednesday, tell us a little bit about that and what agents can expect from it.
Every month it's a different topic. Last week we covered the 5 keys to becoming the luxury leader in your market. The month before, we talked about understanding the luxury client. It's very detailed. It's very helpful. It's very tactical. That's the other thing too. A lot of the training I find outside of Keller Williams is not necessarily tactical. It's a lot more theoretical. Whereas if you're trying to break into something that you don't know how to do yet, you need the tactical steps. You need the step by step. One of the things I should mention also, and this is not at the break-in point, but once you get to a certain level, there is another division with Keller Williams Luxury. It's Keller Williams Luxury Pro for the agents that do focus more on luxury than other types of properties. And that's a much smaller community and much more in depth and much more focused as well. So maybe on our next podcast, we can talk about that.
Irene, thank you so much for coming onto the show and giving us your most valuable asset, which is obviously your time. I will be sharing not only more information in the description below for the Wednesday training that Irene was talking about, the luxury training, but I will also be sharing Irene's checklist that she uses for the KP team to provide that luxury experience. So if you want to go check the description below or send me a DM if you wanted to dig into it a little bit more, and I'd be happy to make the connection for any listeners with myself and or Irene as well. So thank you guys for tuning in, and Irene, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Oliver. This was great.